Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dad's Gone Crypto. For years in crypto, we've heard the same phrase, institutional money is coming. Every cycle, every rally, every crash, but something has quietly changed. It's no longer about institutions buying crypto. It's about institutions building inside of crypto. Asset managers have started launching tokenized funds. Banks are issuing blockchain-based deposits. Stablecoins are settling global trade. Real-world assets are moving on-chain at scale. And yet, if you open your chart, it doesn't feel like a revolution. Prices are moving sideways and down. Sentiment feels cautious. Retail feels unsure. So today, I want to unpack something calmly and clearly. Are we watching crypto mature into global financial infrastructure? Or are we watching traditional finance slowly reshape it into something more familiar? This isn't a hype episode. This is a thinking episode. So put your thinking caps on and let's walk through it carefully here. So let's start with what's measurable. Since 2024, crypto exchange traded products have seen roughly 87 billion in net inflows. BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF reached tens of billions in assets in under a year. Now that's hugely significant. But the ETF isn't the most interesting part anymore. The more important development is what came next. BlackRock launched a tokenized liquidity fund, BUIDL, issued on blockchain rails. Now pause there for a second. That's not exposure, that's infrastructure. Think of it this way. Buying Bitcoin is like buying a car. Launching tokenized funds on chain is like building highways. One is participation, the other is integration, and banks are doing similar things. JP Morgan is experimenting with tokenized deposits. Citi is working on blockchain-based settlement services, and custodians are expanding digital asset offerings again. Now, these are not speculative plays. These are operational upgrades. So the question becomes, if institutions are not just allocating to crypto, but embedding into it, what does that mean long term? Because once infrastructure is built, it tends to stay. Now, let's talk about real world assets. Tokenized treasuries, tokenized money market funds, tokenized commodities. Forecasts suggest real world asset tokenization could scale into the hundreds of billions in coming years. Some platforms have already crossed billions in total value locked, with billions more in trading volume. Now, that might not sound exciting compared to the big meme rallies, but it's structurally important. Why? Because tokenization solves practical problems. Settlement that happens 24/7, faster collateral movement, reduced intermediaries, composability across financial applications. Imagine moving collateral across markets instantly instead of waiting 2 business days. For institutions managing billions, that efficiency compounds. Retail often asks, what's the next 10x? But institutions are asking, how do we reduce friction on $10 billion? It's a different mindset, but the same ecosystem. And here's a question that's worth pausing on again. If the most stable assets, treasuries, move on chain first, does that make crypto more volatile or less? Now, treasuries moving on chain brings us to what might be the most transformative part of this entire story. Stablecoins. Globally, stablecoins are settling trillions in transaction volume annually. Currently, in parts of Asia and many emerging markets, they're not speculative instruments. They're working capital, they're trade settlement, they're payroll infrastructure. Think of it like email replacing fax machines. The fax still worked, email just worked faster, cheaper, and globally. Stablecoins are doing something similar to cross-border payments. And interestingly enough, they don't weaken the US dollar, they're actually extending it. Over half of the global stablecoin activity now comes from Asia. This isn't just a US regulatory story, it's a global liquidity story. And that's why regulatory conversations have shifted from should this exist to how do we framework this safely, which leads us to an important reflection. When governments regulate something thoughtfully, is that a threat to crypto or is it a sign that it's no longer fringe? So with that question in mind, let's lay out the optimistic view. Institutional participation can bring deeper liquidity, improved risk controls, clearer regulatory pathways, and portfolio normalization. If even 1 to 2% of global advised wealth moves into digital assets over time, the capital impact is huge. Tokenized stocks could enable 24/7 trading. On-chain settlement could reduce counterparty risk. Cross-border trade could become more efficient. Now, in this view, integration equals maturity. Crypto evolves from experimental to foundational. It becomes less about disruption and more about upgrade. And upgrades tend to last. But then there's some valid concerns. What happens if crypto becomes highly permissioned? What if access to certain yield pools requires accreditation? What if private chains grow faster than public ones? What if compliance frameworks favor incumbents? There's also concentration risk. If major institutions dominate tokenized markets, does retail still have asymmetric opportunity? And then there's oversight. Big brother's watching. Reports have shown illicit activity in crypto remains a regulatory focus, with hundreds of billions in suspicious flows tracked globally in recent years. Now, that doesn't define crypto, but it does shape policy. More institutional involvement likely means stricter compliance. Now, that can increase stability, but it can also reduce openness. So here's the real tension. Can decentralization coexist with institutional scale? That's the core debate. It's not hype, it's not fear, but balance. So now let's address something that most people are feeling. If infrastructure is growing, why doesn't price reflect it immediately? Well, markets move on positioning, not headlines. Retail cycles are emotional. Institutional cycles are procedural. Retail buys excitement. Institutions allocate quietly. Foundation building rarely looks dramatic. It's usually really slow. But slow growth is really the most important because it shapes the next phase. So where does this leave us? Traditional finance is no longer ignoring crypto. It's incorporating it. The question is not whether this integration is happening, because it clearly is. The deeper question is, does integration preserve crypto's open innovation or reshape it into something structured and familiar? History shows that financial systems evolve through integration, not replacement. Crypto may not eliminate traditional finance. It may merge with it. And in that merger, the design choices we make now matter. So what do you guys think? Is this maturity? Is it consolidation? Is it both? Drop your perspective in the comments. Let's think through this one together. And if you value calm, data-driven conversations in a noisy space, subscribe, share, and stay in the discussion, guys, because this story is still unfolding. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.